We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to our new weekly podcast show that we're going to be doing here on the channel called 10 Years On, where me and my lovely guests go through and discuss each movie that came out this week 10 years ago. The reason we're doing this is this decade means a lot to me. And pretty much everyone here, as this was our first real decade into the movie space where we went, okay, movies are our thing this decade. So I'm going to introduce my panel. Taylor, how are you?
I'm good. This is going to be, let me tell you guys, you're in for some treats this first week. We're starting off with a bang. It's going to be a fun time.
There's a reason why at the start of this decade, January was the tank that it was, that it always was. And I'm, of course, joined by our other guest who usually joins us. Nick, how you going?
Yeah, I think I haven't missed one yet. I actually live here at this point, so I have nowhere else to go.
that is very fair. And we're joined by our wonderful new guest, Peter. How you going?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me.
That is good.
See, poor Peter. He has no idea what he's in for when our podcasts go off the rails.
Yeah.
And just get...
There you go.
I think I'll be okay.
This is going to be very interesting. Guys, just real quick, what does the 2010s mean to you? Like, why? Like, what was it that got you this decade that actually meant to you?
I mean, that's a really tough question because, I mean, like you said, this was, for us, this was kind of the start of where we were at an age where movies could really mean something big to us. And I think it's just that thing. You either really connect with it and it's really something that that means something a lot to you, or it's not. And for me, I would watch movies and I would go, this is incredible that you can convey these kind of emotions and tell these kind of stories and connect people who maybe wouldn't connect otherwise through movie-going experiences. And I really think that this decade in particular, just being able to speak from my own experiences of the movies that I have seen, it's so important to our culture, especially in the crazy world that we live in these days, where sometimes you just need to watch movies and just not think about other things.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, what does this decade mean to you?
2010 is probably the coolest year for movies to me because I got my first ever job and I worked at a Blockbuster Video and I worked there for 4 years. So that literally opened a floodgate of films for me. I would take home handfuls of movies at a time. I was like literally a kid in a candy shop. So that's when my formative film criticism-esque journey started, I guess, because I would watch so much, and by watching you learn and you like you said, you get those escapisms that you're looking for. So yeah, 2010 was the start of a big thing for me this decade. Yeah.
And Peter, what started this decade for you?
Well, 2010 was the first year that I was officially hired as a writer. So I started critiquing in 2010. Inception was my very first ever published review. But yeah, I'd been watching movies pretty much since I could first remember, and I'd always watched them in a different capacity to people that were my age. You know, like Mum would rent movies that were probably a little bit too old. But she would go, I know you're going to watch these movies in a different mindset, so I don't mind you watching American Psycho, Eyes Wide Shut, things that you probably shouldn't watch, but I know that you're watching them in a different frame of view. And yeah, I mean, 2010 was when it all started, and I've just grown since then, and hopefully it can keep going. And very interesting start to the year, though, as we're about to see.
Yeah, so the 2010s started very interestingly. We had 3 major wide releases in the US. So this whole podcast is going to be based solely on the US release dates. I'm going to mention the Australian release dates, but given I like going based on Academy dates. So the Academy release dates is how I base most of my film going year. Yeah. So like I say, okay, that film came out in the year that it was eligible for the Academy Awards. That's why one of these films is on this list, actually. So our 3 films that were released was Daybreakers, which released in 2,523 theaters. Leap Year, which released in 2,511 theaters, and Youth in Revolt, which released in 1,873 theaters. Limited release films we had that weekend on January the 8th, so the same day as we're releasing this podcast, was Sweet Grass, Crazy on the Outside, Bitch Slap, Waiting for Armageddon, Brutal Beauty, Tales of the Rose City Rollers, and Wonderful World. Out of the limited release films, have you ever heard of any of these guys?
I had heard of Crazy on the Outside.
Yes.
I remember seeing that at when video stores were still
I remember
a
having that at the
beautiful
video store,
vehicle.
yes.
I remember seeing it, and I didn't watch it because
That's a Tim Allen
it was
movie,
Tim
isn't
Allen.
it? It's Tim Allen, yeah.
And he directed it, and from everything I heard, it was just not good. And
Oh, man.
my younger self knew back then not to watch this movie. But
Steer
that was
clear.
the only one that I had like actually really knew about. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive into our first film that we're going to discuss today. This was the first film I think all three of us watched first, and when we did our rewatches this year. So let's just dive right in. And here is the trailer for Leap Year.
Get ready to lose your mind. Guess who I saw walking out of the store carrying that little red bag? Oh my God.
So this is for you.
Okay, hold on. We gotta work on your surprise face. Ask me. Will you marry me? Bigger eyes? Oh, me? The good news is you have time to practice between now and then. They're earrings.
Yeah. A little something to keep your ears warm while I'm in Dublin.
It is leap year, you know, in Ireland. A woman can propose to a man on the 29th of February.
Dad, I'm not going to Dublin. I'm not gonna die without getting engaged.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are diverting to Cardiff, Wales.
Wales? Hello. I need a taxi to Dublin.
I'm your man, missus.
I'll drive you to Dublin.
Thank you. I'm going to propose to my boyfriend on Leap Day.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I thought, woo!
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
This January,
Hi, Cass. Let's move.
Comes as a real shock to find out that you speak fluent cow.
the girl who's always in control will find out what happens
You fried my blackberry.
You fried the whole village.
when you lose it.
Wait,
Stop it! The car.
my ride.
I've got a room. You two are married, aren't you?
It's Mr. and Mrs.
O'Callaghan.
Lovely.
I just can't wait to see you. You can't imagine what I've been through.
You can see right through the curtain.
Can you? Can you?
No peeking.
You're young, married, in love. Show us a kiss.
Oh.
Damn it, man. Kiss the girl. Now, that's a kiss.
Will you marry me?
And welcome back to That Was the Trailer for Leap Year.
Wow.
All right, so we watched Leap Year. I had never seen it. You love this movie, or you very much enjoy this movie.
I have a confession to make. I watched 60 minutes of this movie and turned it off. I could not deal with it. I read the ending of the film on Wikipedia synopsis.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
I'm not a professional. If you want to keep me off the show, I understand.
Trust me, we'll get to a movie where you wanted me to turn it off like really badly. But anyway, let's talk about Leap Year. So if you didn't know based off the trailer, this is a story about a woman who is very annoyed that her loving boyfriend, apparently, has not yet proposed to her. So she's using an Irish tradition to go over to Dublin, where he just happens to be. So that works
At
out
the right
Yeah,
time,
that
like-
works out very well. To propose to him on February 29th and he has to say yes, apparently, is according to the tradition. This movie is not good, like at all. It is saved only by Amy Adams's the fact that she just goes, like, she tries her best in this movie. Like, she is trying to elevate this film, and other than that, this movie is a disaster of every single romantic comedy cliched you could ever think of. This movie's not good at all. It's just not good. I'm gonna leave you to last so that you can actually like talk about this positively and get the mood back up. Peter, what are your thoughts?
I did see this movie in 2010. My ex rented it, which is perhaps why I remember not liking it as much, because there was a lot of problems there. What really surprised me was the fact that this movie, made in 2010, was after Amy Adams was pretty much establishing herself. You know, she made Enchanted 2007, Academy Award nomination for Dowd in 2008, and then she makes this. And like, I'd understand if she made this prior to those, but this was like a choice. Like, she chose to make this, and it's, I know that, she's trying her best, but I also think her character's like, she's not good. Like, I don't think she's like a good person. I don't think she's fun to be like, you know. And Matthew Good, he's ironically Matthew not good. He admitted he made this movie only so that he could travel back to London on weekends to see his wife and daughter. And you watch it going, he is so uninvested. And his accent is like so stereotypical. And as for a romantic comedy, you need to be romantic and funny. And I found this neither.
My first 2 points are both your points on here as well. I was like Matthew Good can act. We have seen him before, and he just chose not to. He made a decision to like, there are words on a piece of paper, and I'm going to read those words. I don't have to put anything behind this. And it's every single romantic comedy cliche. And the scene that really ticks me off the most was when she first comes to the pub, and there is about a 10-minute sequence of like, everyone's just like, we're an old Irish pub, we're going to mess with you a little bit. And then she goes up to the room, and the room's falling apart, and it's like the perfectly choreographed, like this, it's like a Home Alone trap, like this falls and that falls and this falls. And I was like, this wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. And the last
thing that you remember watching, of course.
The last thing I remember watching, I think I did. Like, I think I closed my eyes at one point, and then I was like, "Oh, this is still on." It's awfully directed. It has some of the worst. The green screen in the car when they're driving. So this is what I pointed out. The car is bouncing up and down on a non-bumpy road, yet everything outside the landscape is so smooth, and I was so disoriented by that. And this was in the middle of the Adam Scott being a dick phase. So we saw him like as Step Brothers, he was the dick, and now in this he's playing the dick as well. And this is like pre-Parks and Rec Adam Scott. So he was a very stereotypical Adam Scott character at this point.
That just reminded me the scene when they're at dinner and all the other couples are kissing. I'm like, that would never happen. So yeah, they go to dinner, and then they're meant to be husband and wife, and all the other couples start like making out to show how much they love each other, and then they basically like force these two people to make out with each other. I'm like, I've never ever seen that situation. Like, I don't know.
Not at a restaurant that nice, anyway.
I find it funny about that whole scene though, where they walk in and this woman is just like, oh, so I just kicked out this couple who weren't married, who lied that they weren't married even though it's raining. Oh yes, we are definitely 100% married. Like, who introduces themselves like that? Like, it was just
like, don't ask if they're maybe brother and sister first or anything like that. It's like, no non-married shenanigans in my hotel.
Okay, why are the three males wrong?
You guys are looking at this through the completely wrong lens, first of all. I'm just going to say, you want this movie to be like a technically good movie, and that's really not how you should be approaching this, first of all. Second of all, this romantic comedy has every bad romantic comedy trope, which is exactly what I wanted from this movie, and it gave me exactly that. You guys are saying none of these things would realistically happen, which is also not what I want out of a romantic comedy movie. I want it to be ridiculous. I want it to make no sense. I want them to have to kiss for no reason. Like, you guys, I want to get a tub of ice cream and go, all of this is fucking ridiculous, and I love it, and they're in love, but I don't care.
I think I'd be okay with it though if it was like funny, because like
I think it's
I love
hilarious.
romantic comedies. Like
I think
I'm
it's
a sucker
hilarious.
for them, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
There was lots of jokes that felt very forced to me. Like, and there's lots of. I found the film stereotypes, especially Irish people. There's one of the worst bits of editing in the film is after the whole room crash in the pub, and it's this really awkward close up, like crash cut to Matthew Good, and he calls her an Egypt. He goes, "Yeah, Egypt," and walks out the room. But the tone of like the sound and the way they set up the camera didn't make sense as to like why he'd be right there calling this lady he's met like 2 minutes ago an Egypt for no reason. And it's like super stereotypical to have the Irish person call. So you can't just be like no, you have to call her something too. So I don't know.
And I found the airport people so mean to her. Like, I know that when you're frustrated and like, oh, she can't get to Dublin, so but like they're very, very rude to her. Like, oh, let us turn around a plan for you. Like, you know, it was just like
Because
no one in that profession would be that.
That stereotype was all people in the UK must hate Americans.
Yeah.
Like she's American, she's like, well, she's American, she can get what she wants. And like, you know,
Yeah.
So.
You guys are once again making my point perfectly for me. This is exactly the reason. I think you're misunderstanding. I'm not saying this movie is good. I'm saying that this movie is hilarious to me for all of these reasons that you're mentioning. Like, I don't think it's good, but I love watching it because it's just, I'm going, yep, there's that stereotypical thing there, and yep, there's that, and that was the worst shot I've ever seen in my life, and clearly they have no chemistry together.
In fairness.
Amy Adams has no chemistry with him at all. Like, but to be fair, she also doesn't have chemistry with her super loving boyfriend she wants to marry immediately either. So
Adam Scott never comes across like someone like he's stereotypical dick. Like you're never going to end up with him.
No,
like, as soon
no,
as
it's-
Matthew Good and Amy Adams are together, we're like, we have to sit through 100 minutes to wait for them to get together.
I love his immediate transition to where he's like, no, we don't need to get married. And then as soon as he gets a chance for like his job or whatever it is, he's like, you know what? Yeah, maybe we should get, like, it happens 3 minutes later in the film. And I was like, you know what? Hey, it's love. But watch me defend almost every shitty action film this year as well. So.
And like 2010, there'll be more romantic comedies, and I'll probably be like, I really like Jennifer Lopez, so let's not be.
God. We're getting to backup plan, and I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm just waiting until all this comes back around when there's a really, like you said, a really shitty action movie that I have to sit here and go. And you're bagging me for like a leap year. What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, and we have to sit there and talk about Expendables and go how fun that movie is.
I can't wait to talk about that. Yes.
I had to watch that movie with my stepdad and my mom once, and I lasted about 12 minutes and was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. So
as long as you make it to 13 minutes,
then I'll say I've watched it.
Oh man! All
right. Well, let's.
So that was leap year. Okay.
It only gets better.
Before we end on the thing that drives me crazy about leap year the most, and this is just. They released it in 2010, which wasn't a freaking leap year. Like, how? How do you release this movie in a non-leap year? I don't understand. Unless it was on the shelf, and that would make sense why Amy Adams was in it, is that it was on. It was meant to come out in 2008, and then it came out in 2010 for reasons not quite known.
And then, you know, in that case, not such a bad movie.
All right, let's move on to. I think this one's going to be very controversial and interesting. The next movie we're going to be talking about is the movie Youth in Revolt. Here is the trailer.
My name is Nick. I live with my charming mother. Her latest boyfriend, Jerry, is a pathological liar.
If a woman answered the phone, it's probably just a maid.
He's a real prize. My dad is currently in between jobs. Lacey is Dad's girlfriend.
Daisy, come near you.
It's amazing how much action everyone around me seems to be getting. With one exception.
Honey, this is Sheenie Saunders. She just stopped by to introduce herself. Isn't that neighborly?
For Nick, Sheenie was the one.
Do you mind applying this to my exposed areas?
Sure.
Until she became the one
You get turned on easily.
who got away.
Sheenie, I think I love you.
Nick, you're very nice, but I have a boyfriend.
Hello, Nick. Bad break, Nick.
Well, I'll be leaving.
Now, to win her over, he'll have to give love.
I've decided to create a supplementary persona named Francois Dillinger. Bold, contemptuous of authority. Thanks for breakfast.
Where are you going?
And irresistible to women. You're not gonna get this girl by sitting around listening to records. It's time to rebel, Nick. It's time to be bad.
How far will one guy go for the girl of his dreams?
I burned down Berkeley for you.
So romantic, Nikki. Kiss me, you weenie.
I say we let the kid do the dishes. You and I retire to the master bedroom.
Hey, Mom, do you think it's a puppy love thing with Jerry, or is he someone that I can look forward to having around for years to come?
Sheenie's coming home for Thanksgiving. You should be there.
Paul served me an appetizer earlier.
Stuffed mushrooms.
It's gonna change your life.
Have fun. You're going to jail. I'll only ask once that you and your adorable sweater step away from the door. Seems to me you've got two options. Fake your own death or commit suicide.
Nick, you're being so bad.
Not half as bad as the nasty things I want to do to you right now. If that's okay with you.
Let's talk about youth in Revolt. Oh boy. Okay.
I
Yep.
have zero idea of what this movie was actually trying to do or be, or what the point was, or what the tone it was going for was, or how long I actually spent watching this movie, because I feel like it was about 6 hours that I just lost of my life, where I just was confused and upset. And I'm still trying to deal with mentally what this movie has done to me. And if you ever make me watch it again, I can't promise your safety. Like,
I think this movie might be my The Room. I hate this movie is such a disaster and so badly made. I think it's amazing. Like, I was just sitting there going, I was pissing myself laughing at the movie, not with it. Like there was a few little jokes that it tells that I thought were a little bit funny, but most of the time it's just dull and awfully written.
the script
shockingly
is
written.
horrific. Nobody talks like that. Literally nobody in the whole world talks like that, let alone teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, that just does not happen. And it was so weird because there was no chemistry. There was there was no energy in the movie at all. Like, it just was silent and awkward a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then when there was music, it was at the wrong time. And then like it just felt like you had turned a video camera on and there just wasn't actually anything happening worth showing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a weird story that didn't feel like it had any agency to it at all. Like, I don't know what I was supposed to get out of it. Like, I don't know what it was going for.
Yeah.
At all.
I have no idea. I have no words.
I don't know how anyone escaped this movie with careers at all.
Considering the stacked cast in this movie,
yeah.
it is crazy.
Listed off: Michael Cera,
Yeah.
Ray Liotta, Zach Galifianakis, Steve Buscemi,
Rooney Mara.
Portia
Rooney Mara.
Doubleday. Is it Doubleday? How you say it?
Doubleday,
Yeah, Rooney Mara was
Yeah.
just fucking randomly popping up in there.
I was very happy to know that you didn't like it, because I was watching it going, oh, am I just like
Not vibing it.
And then when I found out you didn't like it, I'm like, good, I'm not alone. Because yeah, I was watching this movie going, I don't know the point. And it's like, I get the whole, teen angst and you find your true love. But I mean, that happened way too quickly.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like literally risking his life and then like goes to another state and like, gets her kicked out of school. It was like so much.
Yes.
And so bizarre for someone who you met at a trailer park and again, yeah, as you said, no chemistry. And she's like, it's like, at first I feel like she's like completely taking the piss out of him, but then it's like, oh no, she actually likes him.
She's
But
just dead inside.
I didn't
so
get
is
that.
he. They're just both dead inside.
And then you've got like Steve Buscemi doing
something.
his,
Steve
Ray
Buscemi,
Liotta, who's
Steve
not
Buscemi
useful in
having
this
relations with Ari Grainer
Oh.
in the film too.
who then runs off with Justin
Yeah,
Long. Sorry, spoiler.
Oh yeah, Justin
Like,
Long's in the movie too.
it was like all these people got together, and maybe it was one of those movies that was a lot of fun to make, and it didn't translate.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss.
The thing I said when we were watching this is I went, oh, this is a personal film. Like, it's a film that the director or the writer made that is solely for them.
Yeah.
Like, there is no one else in the world who would want, who would like.
It's based on a novel.
Oh,
So it's someone's favorite novel, and they've written it. and-
yeah.
This movie has one of the most ridiculous scenes that I just sat there and went, I can't believe they filmed this. Like, the car just explodes into a trailer, and then there's a fire trail somehow that just randomly appears going right to where he is. To like, what the physics doesn't work that way. Like, I was like, who set this scene up? It was like, this will look great, guys. This is exactly what we need.
It's great because, especially in that scene, the cinematography in the film is not that amazing. It's just quite indie, right? It feels just like pointing a camera. Until we get to that scene, and then there's frantic shots of people running away from a runaway car. It crashes into a little storefront that doesn't go through the storefront. It like just knocks over a pot plant. Basically, nothing's ultimately destroyed. And I was like, this is a bit weird. I'm not gonna lie. And then the car blows up, and I was like, oh, that's where the budget went. Like, just this one explosion. And then that scene I liked the quirkiness of that one bit, but the rest of that scene, I was very confused.
As he talking about the budget, like it was like $15 million.
I know.
Really?
Where did it go?
Wow. I'm the cast. Maybe
maybe
they're all like, hey, you want me in this piece of shit? $3 million. Thank you very much.
Michael Cera had done
We had
Superbad and Juno.
And
Juno.
At
So I
that
guess
point,
he
yeah.
was kind of somewhat
It's
in demand.
It's funny you mentioned Juno because that's actually one of like in my notes, sort of what I was kind of. I didn't hate this movie. I didn't like it. I'll never really watch it again, but I didn't hate watching it. This just like missed the boat. It's like it's that quirky Juno-esque teenage romantic comedy with that like with surreal dialogue and crazy situations, but it came out like 3 or 4 years too late.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's the end of the road for this.
I said watching this, oh, this is like a 2006 film. Like it's a 2006 indie film of a guy who, like, when they were making, here, digital cameras are now a thing.
Yeah.
Go make a film.
Yeah.
And you can tell. It's just,
I mean, the freaking scene where all of a sudden he's on drugs and then he's seeing the sex drawings around him.
And he pops.
Yeah.
That one caught me by
And he's just like,
surprise.
oh, the pinky. I was like, what? Whoa, what are you doing? No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Michael Cera doing when he's in his alter ego, because that's how
Yeah.
he projects all of his suaveness. And Michael Cera
That's a
saying
word.
all of these really like sexual things is so wrong.
But
because
not
he's
even
he's not the kind of person
not
that
even
can
like
pull that off.
hot sexual things either. It was like, especially the scene in the girls' dorm room when
was so
he's been
rapey.
turned back once. The girlfriend's like, oh, I don't want to have sex with other people in the room, and then he's like, those two are having sex, so let's try with, I don't even remember his alter ego's name, but let's try with him. And he's basically just like, I want to be
Francois.
Yeah,
Francois.
Francois, I'm pretty sure.
And then
is, yeah.
Francois is just like, want to be on you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's definitely a very pre-Me Too era film. Isn't it? Like, so.
But just her, the woman character as well, she drove me crazy in this because no one in their right mind ever talks like that.
No.
Like that was just straight up, oh no, this is the pixie manic girl.
What
Like,
I
that's
what I think girls should say,
Oh.
and what I want girls to say to me, like, nah, buddy.
But it wasn't even like them trying to make her sound super intelligent. It was just like jumbles of words that like even super intelligent people would like. You wouldn't say a sentence like that.
This
like, it's
doesn't
just
make sense.
It just doesn't make, and it's just like words that they thought would sound good together, but doesn't actually make a real sentence.
No.
Like it's just, and it's weird because, and I'm just gonna keep coming back to this. I think the more we talk about it, it's like I don't get what the point was, because there wasn't actually a real love story involved, like you said. There was no development in terms of like anything actually happening there. And then I guess if the point is for him to become a bad boy, like maybe the movie kind of does that,
And
but
that's
not
also
really.
not
like
the greatest,
no.
motivation.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to be a bad boy.
like it's
Grow a
just
little pencil thin moustache, little pencil thin Michael Cera moustache. Also, like, I get why Ray Liotta's character's in the film. It's supposed to create the conflict that his mum's now sleeping with someone else. You did not need that character in the film, because not really at any point is the movie, again, it's about nothing, in fairness, but like there's no real like relationship with his parents' arc in the film. Like, that is not the crux of the movie. It's the fact that just like Zach Galifianakis brings the humor, and when they takes him to the trailer park, it takes him to the trailer park where we have to meet the girl, and then just be with the girl for the rest of the movie. Don't have this like weird non-parent relationship arc
That
where
would have
like
been a better
Ray
movie
Liotta's
if it was
fucking my
just-
mum. It's like, well, we don't care because the movie's not about this right now. So
Yeah, I think if it stayed at the trailer park and it was
Yeah.
just the two of them, it might have been somewhat.
you can still be quirky. Like,
yeah.
quirk is fine, but you're right. It just
Yeah.
jumps so many different places.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's funny. Like, we got that movie 3 years later in The Way Back, like where it's at the trailer park, or it's at the water park, and that's what the film's about.
For a minute there, I was like, we got this movie 3 years later.
But yeah, that was Youth in Revolt. Not
it
a
out,
good
folks.
movie. Yeah.
it's impossible to find.
Yes,
So have fun.
sourcing this movie out was impossible. Like, it is nowhere on
I'm like,
streaming.
we're good at finding
Yeah.
movies,
Oh, yeah.
and we've got all the streaming services, and we're big like movie collectors, and this one was so hard to find.
We were actually messaging each other how to find this movie.
I had to rent this on Telstra box office.
$4 whole Australian dollars.
In standard definition.
It wasn't even HD.
Oh, the sound mixing was horrific.
And that was the thing. I was going to comment on the sound mix, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the movie or the Telstra box. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be mean to the movie on that, because everything else is terrible.
Let's
but,
just assume it was the movie.
All right, let's move on to our last film, because I actually really enjoyed this film.
I'm actually excited to talk about this
So
one.
am I,
So
and that was Daybreakers.
Do you like being a vampire, Sam?
I'm good at this. I was never very good at being human.
Immortality is the miracle. We are blessed.
What happens when there isn't a single drop left?
These are desperate times.
We only have enough blood to sustain our population till the end of the month.
We're talking about the extinction of the human race.
If a blood substitute is not found immediately, this will happen to all of us.
A substitute would replace our need for a human supply.
There will always be those who are willing to pay extra for the real thing.
We need your help.
We want to rebuild the human race.
A blood substitute is not a cure.
I was like you once, and not no more.
Who are you? We're the folks with the crossbows.
That last breath of humanity will vanish as soon as the blood does.
I found a cure. I can change you back.
What's the cure?
They could kill you.
I'm already dead.
Doesn't hurt me.
Can anyone hear me?
Wanna feel how it feels.
They found us. They're everywhere.
You wanna know that it doesn't hurt me.
And that was Daybreakers. I had a lot of fun with this movie.
I did too.
I had so much fun.
Even like just the world building alone in this movie had me so fascinated because they set up such an interesting world that you can do so much with. And then they choose to tell a story about vampires that flips everything on its head for what you typically get.
Especially in a peak vampire era. Like vampires were cool.
Yeah,
well, not cool, necessarily cool, but they were the thing. We had massive vampires.
Twilight, True Blood.
True Blood was huge, yeah.
So even Supernatural was doing, like they were doing vampires at that point. Like, vampires were the thing. And I think that's the downside for this film is that it was a small film in vampires where it was just vampire overlord, like just complete.
Yeah, there was so much of it going on that it kind of got buried with everything else.
Yeah, and then it ended up not being the kind of film I think people were expecting. I think they were hoping like, some action-filled horror movie, and it's like so much more than that. Yeah,
like it's actually about something. Like it's actually got something. No, don't get me wrong. I think the message, it's very super obvious with its message. It's not like subtle with what it's trying to say, but it's fun in what it's trying to say. Like I'm okay with a movie that has a really obvious message as long as you're fun, and that's what I think this film's able to do.
And like I said to you after we watched it, the movie knew exactly what it was. It wasn't trying to be something that it wasn't. The tone was great. They knew exactly what they were going for, and like you said, it was fun. It was fun. I thought the acting was actually really good. Like everyone was showed up. Everyone was having a great time. Dude, Willem Dafoe in this movie is having the most fun anyone has ever had in a movie. Okay,
it's so good.
Willem Dafoe is just like going absolute nuts of I don't care. This is so much fun, and he's just like like not in a I don't care in a bad way. Like he's having fun with what he's doing, and he's just got the accent. He's got like everything. It's just
his nickname is Elvis.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It works so well for him.
Yeah, I love the aesthetic. Like I really love the aesthetic of what they built. The world building itself is, I think, the strongest part of this film is that it sets up its world and it never breaks its rules. Like that's the thing. Like it never really breaks the rules in terms of this is what they can do, this is what they can't do, and they don't break that. They go.
And even when the twist is revealed, we can spoil the movie. I guess it's 10 years old. Yeah. When vampires,
this is a full blown discussion of the film.
Yeah.
So
when vampires can turn back to humans, then can turn vampires into humans. Like even within its own rules, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool because it's a good twist for the movie.
I had to keep reminding myself that it was an American movie though, because I mean it was filmed in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And like right from the credits, you just like that Central Station.
That's exactly what I thought too.
And then like Ethan Hawke comes on. I'm like, no, it's set in America. Forget that this is your local town.
Yes.
Which was there was so many times that I'm like, it's Brisbane, but then it's not. That's CGI'd in there. But the one thing that I really took away from this in terms of like acting, I was like, Claudia Carmen should be such a bigger star than she is. Like this was pretty much her one big movie that sort of went Hollywood to America. And you know, she's like, I guess you could say like the straight woman amongst, like she doesn't really she's kind of the damsel in distress, but then again not really.
Yeah.
Which I like.
She's like the leader of the human people we get to see.
I think in a lesser film she would have been the damsel in distress or something, or the typical love interest, and they really were like, no, we're going to make her a proper character who actually like moves the story forward. Yes, you know, she needs to get saved, but that's not because she's helpless.
No.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest downfall of the movie is the last probably 20 minutes is when it turns into its most conventional movie. Like, and it's definitely not bad. I was still very entertained by it, but it goes from being such a unique take to the bloodbath violent finish that is there another way you can end it? I don't know, but
and then you wonder if that was the Spierig brothers' intent, or that was like studio interference.
Lionsgate were like, we need this. Yeah,
I do want to say I really enjoyed the fact that yes, this movie was clearly about vampires and humans and kind of dealing with what that looks like, but it didn't feel stereotypical vampire-y to me. Like they weren't trying to like heavily lean into like, I guess I don't really want to say this, but they're sparkly, or they have this, or they're like they had the vampire eyes and they had the teeth, but it wasn't like this big
it was just
caricature kind of moment.
Like I like that they were existing with people, and some of them didn't want to bite people. They were happy to live their lives.
Yeah, they drink animal blood.
They
Yeah,
drank
it's
blood,
like, yeah.
and you see like a homeless person on the street and they're like, it's a homeless vampire, let's stay away.
Yeah.
Like they didn't make them us versus them. It was they can be in society with us, but there's always going to be good people and bad people. And that's what this movie was saying.
I agree with that. I also like that there's no logic breaks. Like there's no scenes where you go, like in terms of when you're saying that it's conventional, like there's no scenes where you go, oh, they're just doing that for the plot.
Yeah.
Like the entire
absolutely.
movie, you go, no, that makes sense for those characters in that moment to make that decision. Like there's things that people do that I know that that's not like the greatest praise in the world, but for a January movie, after what we had just seen, and just for, you know, a small budget action film, I thought that's pretty cool. Like, it's good to see, and you know, because it didn't cost a lot. It was only like $28 million.
Yeah.
It, you know, you compare $28 million on this, $15 million on Youth in Revolt.
Yeah, you like what?
Like you can tell they actually like used the money that they spent, and they went and had fun with it. So,
And then it ended up being the highest grossing of the new releases. So yay that you turned up for it.
This is a film though that I would really love if they did a TV show, like, or at some
Yeah.
like if someone
okay.
grabbed the property and went, okay, we're gonna do like in this world we'll do a TV show, like, because this is something you could do really cool and really well. Like I liked the fact that, you know, they showed vampires in suits and like as businessmen going to their daily jobs. Like that's a cool.
They're all working in a lab. They're like scientist vampires trying to find a cure for vampirism and stuff.
Vince Colosimo, like
how many
everything.
Australian actors? Like I know obviously because they filmed in Brisbane, but like Sam Neill pops up as well, and it's just so funny to see all these guys.
And it was amusing that, you know, it was like made in 2009. 2010, but it was set in 2019.
Yes,
like,
yeah,
there
that
wasn't,
was
and I was like, apart from like the phones, I'm like, that's a pretty 2010 phone. It was kind of like this would. It looks
It
like
makes
the way
sense.
it would look now.
I love the look of the film. Like it's so stylized, which works so well for the world building. And this was the second Spielberg Brothers film. Have you seen Undead? Their first one.
I've never seen that. No.
This movie has like Undead is very campy horror, but it's good because it's super low budget, like extremely low budget. This one has like the perfect amount of camp from that film. So it's good to see the Spielberg brothers hadn't really lost their touch from the roots of their horror filmmaking, because there's definitely like dialogue in this film that's a little corny and cringy, but it kind of works with the fun that they're having with the film, as serious of a film as it is. And there's some good jump scares. And that bat in the opening gets me every time. It scares shit out of me. But like it's a good mixture of camp and actual scares and good storytelling.
Yeah. I do really find like the gore really hilarious as well. Like,
The
there's a
gore is
lot-
campy as-
Oh yeah, there's scenes where like they'll just like just suddenly blow up in gore, and you're like, whoa! I wasn't expecting that at all.
The scene when they do the first test subject, and they're like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I feel." Bang! It explodes, and I was like, "That's very 2010 sort of."
And like
thing.
the ending when like Sam Neill and it's just like and then like that nice like upside down head shot. And you're
That's
like,
right.
It was like that's very 2010, and like the blood is so red.
It's
syrupy.
Yeah.
So thick.
So good though. I think
absolutely.
it works so well with the film that they were making though,
Yeah,
which brings me
absolutely,
back to they knew what they were making.
Yes.
They knew what they were working with. Like they're not making an Academy Award film. They're
That's why it
making a
works.
fun
Yeah.
movie with great acting, with some campy moments. They know what their aesthetic is. They never forget what their aesthetic is in this movie, which is great. They're so committed to that like filter that they have on the whole movie.
Absolutely.
But I'm really glad we saved this one for last, or I may have cried.
Great film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Like that's
it's a hell of a
basically
fun.
the whole point of this
and
podcast.
it's easy to find.
Yeah.
And it's actually in 4K. They released it in 4K this year to last year to mark 10 years.
because it's set in 2019.
Yeah, I know.
It's set in the past. That's kind of terrifying. All right, let's move on to box office results for that week. So, January 8th, 2010, here were the box office results. Number 1, Avatar for the 4th week with $50.3 million. Number 2, Sherlock Holmes for the 3rd week with $16.58 million. Number 3, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
Yes.
We've got 2 more of these to go.
Lovely.
With $16.56 million in its 3rd week. Daybreakers in its 1st week opened at number 4 with $15.14 million.
That's awesome.
It's complicated, and it's in its third week, opened at number 5 with 11 million. Leap Year in its first week opened to 9.2 million at number 6. The Blind Side with 7.5 million opened on its 8th week of release.
That's legs.
Up in the Air on its 6th week of release had $7.1 million at number 6. Youth in Revolt opened to $6.8 million on its first week at the number 9 position. And Princess and the Frog was at the 7th week with $4.65 million. The major movie news stories. This one's actually pretty big. John Malkovich and Anne Hathaway still haven't yet signed on for Spider-Man 4 and are awaiting the script. This is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture, and Anne Hathaway was going to play Black Cat. Both were heavily rumored as like that was and this has now been confirmed that is what was going to happen. Yeah. But 2010, Spider-Man 4 was still a thing. Like we were,
well, because Spider-Man 3 only came out in 2007, didn't it? So that makes sense. Like they were going to do a quick sequel. Well, not quick, but like 4 years later.
Yeah. So
maybe it was definitely dead in the water at that point.
Yeah, like Spider-Man 3, like that irked a lot of people. Yes. So I'm not surprised that Spider-Man 4 didn't come to fruition. But at the same time, like John Malkovich,
imagine him as the Vulture.
when he decides to like go a bit campy, like he really gives it. And Anne Hathaway, I mean, it's quite funny that she was Black Cat and ended up playing like Catwoman years later. So
really not long after. That was 2012.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we'll talk about in a couple of weeks the fact that this movie doesn't happen. But we'll get to that. The other big news that dropped was the untitled Star Trek sequel sets its original date of June 29th, 2012. It would ultimately be pushed 12 months. This was Into Darkness. So the film that ended up becoming Into Darkness originally had a date of 2012, and then JJ went, I can't finish a movie in less than 2 years. And clearly. And last but not
Star Wars.
And last but not least, this one's interesting, I think, for Ryan Reynolds because, hey, your future wife got cast in the movie that you met her. But Blake Lively gets cast in Green Lantern.
Okay.
And it's quite funny that was like, big news because I think she would probably be considered a bigger star at that point because of Gossip Girl. She was certainly riding the wave. And I always wonder, like, if Green Lantern had actually been a massive success, would he have still ripped on it as much as he did?
Oh, no.
You know?
Easily
like,
not.
I think
probably not. Hey.
I think it definitely probably like hurt his career for a while and hers too. I mean, so I don't blame him for still being like, hey, remember to forget that I was in Green Lantern. Let's not talk about that ever again.
And then poor Ryan Reynolds, because he also had Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine not long before that as well. So having that 2 in a row of pretty shitty superhero films, you're gonna be like, ugh.
But I do like that Blake Lively has really like stepped up career. Like I think all the stuff she's making is like super interesting.
Really
choices.
The biggest irony I do find about that Green Lantern movie is it's clearly a movie that hurt Ryan Reynolds that he hates with a passion.
Yeah.
Yet it's the movie he met his wife on.
Yeah.
It's got this like ultra significant thing that happened in his life about that movie.
See, it's gotta be to him. That's gotta be like a comforting thing where it's like it had to happen for a reason. Like it was really, really shitty, and I hate that it was shitty because I was really into that movie.
Yeah.
But like, there's obviously a cosmic ultimate reason that I had to be in that movie
because he can only control so much.
Yeah,
of course. He signed on to a different movie.
He
really,
is definitely not the problem with that film. There's a lot of problems with that film, and we will get to that later in a year and a half.
Much
Stay
later,
tuned.
Please.
Yeah. But anyway, that's right. That's when it was called The Green Lantern, not just Green Lantern. But anyway,
so innovative.
I know.
Drop the.
Now we've got a hit on our hands.
Just Green Lantern.
Do you know what's cool? Anyway, continue.
All right, and our last thing that we're going to talk about in Australian release dates. So these are movies that opened on the 7th of January 2010. it's complicated opened 3 weeks after its US release. So we finally got that movie.
I really like It's Complicated.
I still have not seen it. I need to see it. Yeah.
I mean, it's typical Nancy Myers that it's very long. But yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. Here we were just bagging out a romantic comedy. Here I am going like, I really love it. But no, I think, Meryl Streep, Steve Martin, Alec Baldwin, it's actually
Meryl Streep smoking weed, dude. That's what it's all about.
It's actually one of the good ones.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for checking out our first episode of 10 Years On. If you like the show, make sure you let us know in the comments down below. If you've seen any of the movies we talked about, let us know.
If you plan on seeing them.
Yeah.
Also let us know.
And you don't have to see them.
You don't have to. That's why we do it. We watch it for you.
Hey, if you want to play along with us, you can watch it with us. Next week, we'll go through, but if you want to play along at home and watch the movies with us, we will be watching The Book of Eli, The Spy Next Door, and Brand New Day. So we'll see you next weekend for that one.
Can't wait.
Yeah, Nick's so excited for that.
I've actually never seen The Spy Next Door. And probably for good reason.
I never have either, so this could... Taylor's just like...
We're in this together.
We will talk about that next week, guys. Thank you so much for chilling with us all. Guys, where can the good people find you online, Peter?
You can find me on Twitter at ratedpdg.
And Nick?
You can find me on Instagram at NixFlixFix.
Taylor?
You can find me on Twitter at Finally Tailored and Instagram _Finally Tailored because someone took Finally Tailored on Instagram and I'm still bitter about it. Thank you very much.
And you guys can find me at all the social media sites.
We'll put links. We'll put links
at Jacob London. That's because I'm very original. Guys, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.